When we realised that we'd been told the Falklands War was over, and at that time they said that we would be imminently heading back home. That didn't actually transpire in the end because of the unexploded mines. We thought that the horrific injuries that we'd been seeing, that our poor lads had, we thought that that perhaps would have, come to an end, but it didn't. But we did also, we'd had very little contact with obviously we had no contact with the Falkland Island people at all. But they decided that the children had been through an awful lot. So we actually put on a party for the children. And we managed to get, bits and pieces of all sorts and just made ourselves look, like fancy dress, really. It was quite surprising how many of our lads on board had bits of clothing that were made to look like women's clothing. And you thought, where did they come from then? But we all dressed up in fancy dress and, anything we could find, a funny tie. And we got whatever food we had, we could muster together, or not myself, but the kitchen staff did, to put on a spread of food. And we just made the children, we welcomed them on board the ship, showed them a little tour around the ship. We had the Royal Marine Band were playing some music for them, and just made it a really, really jolly time for the children. And also we praised the little children as well, because we didn't know quite what they'd experienced, so we gave them an awful lot of praise and cuddles and things like that. So that was lovely. Again, I've got photographs of that. That's what our lads had been fighting for, because they were very British, and some of the older children gave us hugs and said thank you, thank you for everything that you've done, which was quite moving, really. And so yes, it was about, it did bring it home what the Falklands was all about, really. And so we didn't have a lot of interaction with the adults, it was more the children, but certainly the older children were so grateful, and said thank you so much. We didn't question them too much about what they'd been through, because we didn't feel that was our place to do that, and it could trigger things. But we just said, "Here's our brave little children," and made them feel special. Being me, I thought, damn it, I've not come all this way not to put my foot on the Falklands. I'm not having this. And a lot of our equipment was being moved by the Royal Marines on board, the stretcher bearers, as they were, the Royal Marine Band, onto the land, because we had, we were imminently going to be no longer a hospital ship. We were on our way home, and so I thought, and so they were called landing party, and I heard this tannoy saying landing party to whatever deck it was, and I knew what that meant. It was they were taking some equipment to the Falkland Islands, and I thought, blow this, I've come all this way, I'm going to put my foot on the Falkland Islands. And there was an RFA little man there, and he had a duffel coat on. So I just said to him, "Can I have your duffel coat?" I said, "It's an emergency." And he went, "Yes," and he gave me his duffel coat. So I put this duffel coat and pulled the hood up round me. And I ran to the top deck where the landing party were meant to be meeting, by which time they'd gone down to the next deck. So I ran as fast as I could to the next deck. Again, by the time I got to that deck, it was in the water. I thought, blow this. So I got to the next deck. And of course, the chaps were all in the boat then. And I thought, I'm not missing this opportunity. And I remember there was the officer in charge of that landing party was Commander Pollard. And so I just shouted to him and I said, "Stand by, sir." And I just jumped into the boat. and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I want to put my foot on the Falklands." And he said, "Well, you can't." And I said, "Please." And he said, "Well, for your cheek," he said, "Okay." And he just said to me, "Can you try and look like a man?" So I just sort of pulled my duffel coat, or my stolen duffel coat over my head. And I thought, right. And so I went and I got out the landing craft and I put my foot on the soil, and I picked up a stone to say, "That's a Falkland Island stone." But I wasn't recognised because I wasn't meant to be there. And then, ironically, I think it was about 3 days later, they said that the nurses could actually go to the Falklands. So we actually went And again, I've got some pictures of us, where we actually did go into the Falklands, but I was illegally the first nurse to have gone.